My choice of drug was alcohol. I started using when I was about 11 or 12. I liked to drink by myself. I didn't like to go around big parties and stuff.
I was using everything. The only drug I didn't touch was heroin. Anything else I touched it, I was pretty much loaded the whole day long.
I started at 12 when I started. I was a punk, period. I was into a lot of stealing and theft and stuff like that, and that's mostly how I got most of the money for buying my drugs.
I was 14. I just started high school. I got in with the wrong crowd, and I started to drink. The more I drank, the more I liked it. And pretty soon I had a problem.
I had experimented with other drugs, like marijuana, hash, at school, and it didn't have the same feeling to me as alcohol did. I preferred alcohol. So every day I'd go out in the backyard and sit in my fort and drink away.
Pick up the morning paper or the latest weekly and take a quick look at the front page. Chances are pretty good you'll find an article somewhere in there that talks about cocaine, drunk driving, marijuana, treatment centers, or the court trial of some well-known athlete, actor, or musician who's been caught using drugs. If that doesn't work, turn on some primetime TV program, and you'll see the latest superhero busting criminals who've made millions by peddling illegal drugs. Either way, you don't have to look far to know that drugs and alcohol are everywhere in our country today. We're not going to belabor you with statistics or try to convince you that there's a crisis among youth. The simple facts are drugs and alcohol exist, that they're easy to obtain, and that the consequences of using alcohol and drugs can be devastating and deadly. The young people we interviewed for this program understand the consequences. Each has had first-hand experience with drug and alcohol abuse, and each has undergone some form of treatment to overcome the problems associated with using. Today, at least for now, the young people you're about to see are back on the street.
If you know someone in your age group who is dead because of drugs, you know someone who's dead, I want you to stand.
I was shaking on the ground, I was hemorrhaging. I looked up, and it was like I could see people, but I couldn't hear them. I could hear them talking to me. I looked, I seen my mom and my father there. There was ambulances all over the place, and it felt like, like I was gonna die. For some reason, it felt like I was gonna die. I was so scared.
How many of you believe that taking drugs will make you do something you didn't mean to do? Raise your hand. You're taking drugs will make you do something you did not intend to do. Raise your hand.
Well, when I was high, I just act rowdy, be high, like to do things I wouldn't do when I'm not high, Go out, try to steal something, when I'm drunk, I like to mess with girls, and then, all that manhood in you will come out when you're drunk, You don't care about nothing, you do anything when you're drunk.
I hated myself. I had no confidence in myself. I figured nobody likes me. But when I got drunk, there's Eric, everybody's this crazy Eric, there he is running around, with breaking bottles and chasing people, stealing things, Everybody liked me. They said, oh, crazy Eric.
Arguing a lot with my parents. I really regret that, saying things I didn't mean when I was under the influence. Hitchhiking, stealing from my sisters and brothers to get money, lying, being really loud and obnoxious.
I had a party at my house, and I did everything except I forgot to wash the glasses from the quarter barrel. And my mom came home, and she came in the house, and she recognized that the glasses happened to have beer in them, and I totally forgot about it, and I totally freaked out. I didn't know what was going on. I trashed the whole house. My friends had to come in and hold me down. I kept busting shit over my head. I mean, I knew what was going on, but I didn't know how, I was in no way in control of myself.
You know someone in your age group who takes drugs, Stan.
Like, the only thing that really mattered was, the next class break or, lunch period, or when you're going to get high next. That's all I thought about.
Marijuana, that was the main drug, I used to have it
every day, you know, after school, maybe every once in a while, in the morning if I had some, you know, because every time I get it, I just smoke it all up and won't save nothing.
It was a good way to escape. After a while, though, I couldn't escape no more. Alcohol didn't do it for me. Pot didn't do it for me. Valium didn't, but then I found acid.
Bigger and better.
Yeah, I found acid, and when I was on acid, I was in my own little world, and nothing could touch me.
Now, if you know in your mind, in your right mind, that taking drugs will make you do something you did not mean to do, then in your right mind, you must decide not to lose your mind.
What was it that made you do drugs? Why did you choose drugs and alcohol?
You know, maybe it was peer pressure. Maybe that was a quick way to get accepted in school. You know, I had a lot of friends real fast when you had a bag of dope. In the summer after 8th grade is when I started using more drugs. I got into LSD and cocaine, you know, and pills, whatever I could really find. By the time I was, you know, after middle school ended, then I didn't drink too often then. Still, you know, just on the weekends or 2 or 3 times a week. But as soon as I got into high school, that's when a lot of my using really accelerated. Within, you know, 2 or 3 months of high school, I was getting high in school, and getting high, you know, 4 or 5 times a day. You know, it was pretty routine. You know, I'd get up, get high on the way to school. You know, go through school to keep my pants off my back. You know, meet my friends at lunch or between classes or whatever, you know, get high. And then after school, you know, get high before I go home. And then I'd fall asleep before dinner, and I'd wake up for dinner. And then fall asleep after dinner until the next morning. And, you know, that's the way it was for a long time. I got busted at school for possession. And our school has a policy where you have to go through an assessment if you get arrested for anything like that on school grounds. And I did. I went to the social worker, and I lied to her about everything, of course. I didn't want to go to treatment or get in any sort of trouble. And she probably knew I was lying. She sent me to another assessment at the university. And I went through 2 there, actually. You know, I lied to her again and everything. And finally, I went to a private hospital. That's what they recommended for me, because she knew that I was a lot heavier into drugs than I said I was. Somehow they make you look at yourself. They get the rest of that, everybody that's in there. It's like a community feeling, atmosphere, whatever. And they, like, you know, you help each other look at, you know, areas of their life and how they've been screwing themselves up, you know. And, you know, saying, you know, it's not normal to feel like that, you know. It isn't normal to feel paranoid 24 hours a day. You know, and just, you know, show you that, you know, something can be done about it, you know. Stop using drugs and take a look at yourself, and, you know, you won't have to be like that. I feel a lot better about myself, 100% better. It's, you know, it's like there's so much more that I can see now in other people and myself that I never would have noticed before, I never would have cared about before. You know, like any kids that you know, that are using drugs or will, or, you know, even kids that, you know, drink on the, you know, once or twice a month, they laugh at what people teach them in school. They don't believe it. They don't trust, you know, the teachers. They don't, you know, they think it's a big joke. You know, like I said, in a health class freshman year, I'd be stoned in class laughing at the films that they'd show us. I totally, you know, people don't get in trouble with drugs. You know, that's just a big myth. You know, maybe maybe if you're doing heroin on the streets of Harlem, maybe then you're in trouble.
Why should they believe you?
I don't know. They probably don't have any reason to believe me, except, you know, I'm not lying. I got in a lot of trouble with drugs. You know, I'm doing this, I hope, you know, maybe this will stop some other kids from doing more drugs, or just at least take a look at, you know, how much drugs they do use. You know, you have to decide for yourself, you know. You can be shown whatever you want. You got to take a look at yourself.
was using for 4.5 years, since about the age of 12.
How did you afford it?
How did I afford it? I was working. I had a job for, it was a candy crew where the kids would go out house to house and sell candy. You had to be 12 years old for that. And plus I'd borrow money from my parents and tell them I needed it for skating or whatever. And they'd give me the money and I'd just go out and buy drugs.
Before I started working, I would get my allowance $5 a week, and if it wasn't enough, I would take it from my parents. I'd steal it out of my mom's purse.
Debbie and Kathy met during inpatient treatment at a rehabilitation center. Both are chemically dependent. While Kathy's abuse was primarily alcohol, she also used drugs. Debbie's abuse was primarily drugs, but she also used alcohol. Both girls have serious regrets about their addiction.
I made a jerk out of myself. The stuff I said, the stuff I did, when I'd go in public places, be loud, just make a total jerk out of myself. And I regret that, the things that happened with the guys that I was with.
My older brother introduced me to pot, and I was kind of scared at first, but then I decided that I'd just go ahead, just what the heck, might as well.
I'd experienced with treatment centers before, but this time it was I wanted to do it. And I learned a lot, but they don't pity you. You don't get no self-pity, and they kick you when you need to be kicked. It's exactly what I needed. I needed to be kicked to do something. And it's all up to you, and they're there if you need someone to talk to. But you gotta work. You gotta wanna work.
I always ask the question, if God made drugs, what's so bad about them? God made pot, why can't we smoke it? He made it. That was one of my biggest questions. And my counselor, she'd get really tough with me, and she'd say, well, do you want to go back out and win your life? She'd tell me, the world isn't going to change. Once you go back out there, you're going to have to change, which was one of the hardest things for me to accept, that I had to change and not the world.
Kathy and Debbie remain friends and often use each other for support in staying drug-free. But it doesn't always work. During the production of this program, both girls were interviewed twice. The second interview about 6 months after the first. In that time, each had gone back to using and then, eventually, back into treatment.
Everything was going okay for a while since the last interview. And then I started to use again. Then I was kicked out of group for a month. And I worked to get back in. Then I was straight for 5 months. And then I relapsed about a month ago. And now I'm back in outpatient. It was senior skip day, and I felt kind of pressure because everybody around me was partying, everybody in school. I decided that I could too, that I wanted to, so I did. And it turned out terrible, got in trouble.
Well, the first day I had 1 beer, and that was it. And the second day, I went totally nuts, and I was back to beer, and I was back to smoking pot. And I was back in the same pattern that I was in when I first, when I was using before I came in inpatient the first time. When I'm pretty depressed or something, I find it really hard to stay straight, or when I'm having too good of a time, when I'm in a right situation for me to get in trouble, then it's pretty hard for me to stay straight.
Will you ever be a social drinker?
I don't know. It doesn't look too good now.
Does that bother you?
Yeah, it does.
How come?
Because I think I can never drink again. I look at it as a long time, and it's scary. But then I just go day by day now. It's easier.
It's like when I was about 8 years old, me and my little brother getting high all the time. And I felt that you know, it just kept going on for years and years, just getting high and doing nothing, just like to be feeling high and all. So I just decided that I need to do something with my life, you know, because it was getting in my way, all my school problems, never doing my work or anything.
Had a couple of friends around the corner. I used to go over there with a little bit of money. And, you know, we all used to gang up on a little bit of weed, you know. And, you know, we all get high.
I just get high because, you know, everybody was really getting high at the time, you know. That was like the end thing for everybody getting high. You know, my older brother, he'd come from out of town. And then I feel like it's time to get high because he here, you know. He know where to get the drugs at. And we just go get some, you know, get high.
I didn't have any brothers or sisters to tell me not to do that, except for my mother and father. But then again, you know, but at the time I wasn't really listening to them. So my friends was like, come on, you know, why don't you try it, you know. So, you know, started trying it and I started liking it, and my addiction started to get worse.
Craig and Tony also met during inpatient treatment. They became close friends, and so far, both have remained straight on the outside. But it's not easy.
I, you know, kept away from my friends for a while, you know, to let them know that I really don't, you know, need the problem of being around them and watching them get high. Because they was mainly not a problem to me, but my brothers and them was, you know. So I had to watch out for them. And that was a struggle, you know, because I had to go make my mother believe that my brothers was getting high around me and in the house, you know. She couldn't just seem to sink that in her head, you know. They not doing that. They wouldn't do it around you, you know. But, you know, everybody have things they have never told their parents before.
Yeah, what was the most frightening part for you when you left here?
Well, going back by the old hood, you know. It's like, you know, telling everybody I stopped, and everybody's like, oh, man, you didn't stop. You know, you lying, man. Here's the joint here, you know, when you gonna get high? Come on, nah, you know. I tell them, nah, I stopped for good. And then, you know, people started looking down at me, but in a way I didn't care. But I still wanted them as friends, you know. But I really didn't care what they thought about me, you know. But after a while, everybody started accepting that, and then started turning towards me, saying like, well, wow, what is it like, you know?
Well, most kids may not think they are addicted, but, you know, they really should just look at how things are going in their life. If everything seems like it's going down and down and down, nothing's really happening for them. They always empty pocket or empty-handed or something, you know, always having to steal and go get high. I say, you know, you're addicted, and, you know, try to talk to someone, let them know that you feel that you are addicted, and, you know, let everybody know that you want to have some help or something. That's how I really went about it my own way.
I never had a good, straight friend to help me out. I just had friends who just got high, you know.
Kids could always say no, though, you know, if they don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
The best thing to say is no, you know. I don't really want to.
But then that peer pressure get to you. Then they think, oh, you nothing but a square. You know, but just try your best to think about what you're doing. You know, if you're taking a hit off a joint, just think, man, what am I doing, you know? Something. Just something.
Death didn't scare me, and it still don't. But what scares me is the loneliness. And that's what got me straight, was being lonely. I guess that's what I was mostly all my life. I was real lonely because our family could not share feelings. You know, males are strong, you're strong, you do not feel. And I guess that's probably what I was mainly running from, was just being lonely. And that bottle was pretty friendly. The bottle and the joint, you know, they gave me happiness for a while. And it can be a real good friend, and then all of a sudden everybody else likes you because you can drink so much, or you can pop so much, or you can smoke so much, or you got it, or you got the money. And it's real, you know, all of a sudden everybody likes Mike.
Until it's gone.
Yep. Yeah. When I did go into treatment, to the long-term treatment center, and I had nowhere to go besides there. I had nowhere else to turn, you know. It's like some kids would run from there, and I think, where the hell am I gonna run? I'm 80 some odd miles from home. I can't go home. If I go home, I get locked up. You know, and it's like, I got nowhere to go. And also I noticed how alone I was, and if I didn't change, I'd stay that way. You know, I go to prison, how many friends are you gonna meet in prison, you know? And I was like, I got nowhere to go. I'm alone, and the only people that care are these people here who right now I hate, because they want to change me, and they want to mess with my life, and they want to change me and play with my mind and stuff and brainwash me as I thought, you know. And I said, well, the hell with it, I ain't got no other choice, you know. After about 3 weeks of fighting with it, I decided to do something, because I couldn't stand the loneliness.
The first time we interviewed Mike, he'd been in and out of treatment facilities for more than 4 years. He'd had trouble with the law, with school, and with his family. But at 19, he also seemed determined to make his life work without drugs.
If I went back to using, you know, when I think of relapsing, I tried relapsing once, and I tried doing it the sophisticated, you know, the socialized. So let's have some champagne, you know, me and my friend. And it's like, we went through that bottle within 15 minutes, you know. It's like, you know, first just starting sipping out, trying to be casual and shit. All of a sudden, it was gone. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, let's go get some more, you know. But that's the way I'd want it to be, you know, classy and stuff like that. But it ain't going to be like that, so I can't go back, you know. I'll just end up where I was before.
We followed Mike for nearly a year, and at 20, he's still straight. In addition, he now works as a child care worker at DePaul Rehabilitation Hospital in Milwaukee.
It's real therapeutic for me. But at the same time, it could be dangerous for me. By taking on everybody's problems. And when I first started, it was kind of difficult for me because it's like, you know, I was working 40 hours and 8 hours a day, you know, taking care of everybody. But after talking with some of the other people I worked with, you know, I learned how to deal with and how to separate that from my social life and stuff. And now it's just it's real positive for me. I really like the work. It's real fun. It's real rewarding, though it is stressful at times, but it's still rewarding. I mean, if one person makes it out of 30, that's worth it. And you know, that's true. You know, I ain't gonna go in some place and try and tell people something that isn't true. What happened to me is true. What do you do with the past? And you can go out there and you can look. There's so many other people that are just like me. And worse. You know, there's some that are worse than me. There's a lot that are probably worse than me. They're in worse trouble. You know, I got lucky. You know, the cops kept giving me breaks. I should have been sitting in prison. You know, but they kept giving me breaks. And, you know, I got lucky.
All of these kids are different. Different ages, different backgrounds, different reasons behind why they chose to use drugs or alcohol. But there are some things about which all of them agree.
You know, it's not easy. You know, you can't do it overnight. It didn't take me overnight to do it. But at least make an attempt. Try it. If you decide you don't want to use drugs anymore, don't let your friends, don't let the fact that all the people you know use drugs, you know, change that decision you've made.
Life is so much better without it. You know, people think it's cool, you know. Was it so cool to be whipped by a bottle of alcohol? You know, that stuff can control you. It's not cool. You know, it's cooler to be yourself. It's so good to be yourself. You ain't gotta play no games with people.
Be yourself, sit down and look at what you're doing, because it's not going to take you nowhere. And sooner or later, you're going to learn the hard way if you don't stop now, or at least sit down and take a look. And the people out there that think they can handle it, it'll take over.
Back on the Street is part of the Is Anyone Listening series of documentary programming for teenagers. Additional programs in the series include The Nuclear Nightmare, an in-depth look at the nuclear fears and dreams of young people. To Whom It May Concern, an award-winning documentary on the tragic problem of teenage suicide. The program provides positive alternatives and profiles model programs across America. Urban Turf, a thought-provoking look at one of America's urban dilemmas, street gangs. Decisions, Teens, Sex, and Pregnancy, a critically acclaimed profile of the teenage pregnancy issue, along with an analysis of sexual myths, model programs around the country, and positive alternatives for teens. No Fault Kids, an in-depth look at the impact of divorce on young people. And Fitting In, a show about peer pressure, are also available for screening. Copies of the above-mentioned programming can be previewed or purchased by contacting United Learning. Thank you for your support of the Is Anyone Listening educational video series.